Genesis 5, verse 2. If you recall from the prior verse, we are in the middle of the book of the Genesis, that is the genealogy. So let's see what's happening in this verse. Arsen kai thelu epoiesin autus, ke eulagesin autus, ke ep anomasin ta anima auton Adam, he hemera epoiesin autus. We begin with this first line, and we have arsen. It's the accusative form of arsein. It's going to be a male, more specific form than anthropos kai. So, and thelu, this is, of course, going to be female. And then the verb here is epoiesin. That's a third singular aorist active indicative. We've seen this numerous times in Genesis, and the subject here goes back to the prior verse, which is God. And then finally, autus. So he made them, that's your main accusative, male and female. Then we have another conjunction, kai eulagesin. This is from eulogeo, and it's kind of built of which is good or well, and a log here, logos, a good word where we get our modern eulogy, but this is to bless as a verb, and a sen ending. You don't have a lengthening on the front end like you typically do for aorist because it's already kind of long, but this is a third singular aorist active indicative as well. So, and he blessed them. Next sentence, another conjunction, just a simple kai here. Eponomasin here. This is from eponomazo, and you can probably tell based on the anima under the hood, this means to name. And you have a third singular ending. Here, the lengthening is right here on that O. So this is, again, a third singular aorist active indicative. It's driving the show here, and he named. Then we have the name. So it's a bit redundant, but that's pretty common in Greek. And it's their name. So notice it's plural here. And so he named their name. So hold that thought. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Adam. Now, that's really interesting. He named their name Adam. The Greek translator takes the proper name here. But what's interesting here is, and you might guess this, the underlying Hebrew actually has Adam. But in Hebrew, Adam means man. It becomes a proper name in a certain sense. And so what I find interesting about this is that with this plural auton, I would have expected at least the translator to pick up on that it's a plural, it's man and woman, it's Adam and Eve, and maybe go with something like anthropos or something like that here to pick up on the intent of the underlying Hebrew, which, by the way, that also shows up in the Targums and the Syriac and so forth. So this reading is pretty secure and not actually render it as the proper name. And so kind of interesting there. But here's what's fascinating. It looks like scribes were aware of this issue. And so a lot of manuscripts, I'll throw them up on the screen here, actually do read here autu instead of auton. So they make it a singular. That resolves the issue. He named the name of him, that is the man, Adam. That's fine. That works out well. And so this is a little snapshot from the Göttingen Genesis edition. And so you can see the autu here is attested in a whole boatload of places. And so a lot of scribes felt that tension. But our editors tend to think that the harder reading is to keep the plural here and then just deal with the fact that he's called Adam, or they are called Adam. Well, let's finish out the sentence. We have the he hemera. We've seen that before. We have this relative pronoun, this dative singular feminine. You got the hemera, which is dative singular feminine. So it's on the day in which. Epoiesin, third singular aorist with an autus there. So notice the direct sort of parallelism there. On the day in which he made them. Now let's make a couple final comments. Stepping back, this first part of the verse in 5:2 might sound familiar. We did cover it ages ago in Genesis 1:27. You notice that it's verbatim the same, male and female. He created them, or he created them male and female. So exact same wording there. And then I want to draw attention to this blessedness. I often hear folks say that God cursed Adam and Eve. And I can understand why we might have that impression, but keep in mind, and we drew attention to this in Genesis 3, that the curse actually, the katartos, falls on the serpent in 3:14, the land in 3:17, and yes, it does fall on Cain in 4:11, but that was a kind of a interesting situation in which God simultaneously does curse Cain and sends him out, but he also protects him from being immediately put to death. And so it's a bit of a mixed situation. Keep in mind, though, that from the beginning, God actually blessed them. I think we often miss that when we tend to think of the creation story. So God had intended to bless Adam and Eve. He doesn't actually curse them. He curses the serpent and the land. So just important to remember that, to pay attention to the details of the text. So a lot of fun stuff in Genesis 5:2.